Let me be clear. We will ensure anyone found engaging in disorder meets the full force of the law, as we have done before.
The elite class in MSM response to Henry Novak's anti-white slaughtering has been as despicable as it was predictable. Rather than talk about how this young man, and I don't know if you've seen this footage, it's previously unseen home video that Henry's sister shared, and if you're like me, it will just completely break your heart. And rather than talk about how this young man Henry was murdered, thanks to a system designed to prioritize so-called racism over the protection by authorities of the native population, the conversation has moved to the natural and understandable anger from the native population as a result. It's called diversion. And indeed, Slippery Starmer was back to his happy place in Parliament today, condemning the Patriots in Southampton rather than the Sikh family and cops involved in Henry's death. Watch.
No matter the pain we feel, there is no justification for more violence and disorder. Yeah. The attacks directed towards police officers in Southampton last night were disgraceful and completely unacceptable. Yeah. This is a time for serious work, not rage. Yeah. And let me be clear. We will ensure anyone found engaging in disorder meets the full force of the law, as we have done before.
Starmer then invoked Henry's family. And this is what the left are doing, like the Daily Mail's Labour columnist Dan Hodges, who supports a blanket ban on any discussion around this tragedy, arguing, number of people asking me to comment on the Henry Novak case. His father said, "We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred or tension. If you can't respect his wishes, you're scum." That's what I think. But as the techno-populist responded, classic Hodges, but it is a trick used by many left-wing journalists. Whenever a flashpoint event involves a white victim, their first instinct is to depoliticize it. Don't look back in anger. Move along. Indeed, it's also a misrepresentation of the Novak situation, however, with the independent Southampton Times revealing that some of Henry Novak's friends were at last night's protest in Southampton, confirming his family were watching the live stream from home. Don't believe Keir Starmer. So what happened at the so-called riots last night, which the MSM want to, along with Nigel Farage's statements, turn into the story, because it's much easier, isn't it, to focus on Tommy Robinson, who argued on the way to the police station. Since the start of the Henry Novak case, I've watched people focus on everything except the real issue. A young lad was stabbed, handcuffed while bleeding, and treated like the suspect. Now there's a growing public backlash and people are asking serious questions about police training, priorities, and institutional bias. Henry could have been your son. He could have been my son. And yes, Tommy is angry.
They're all trained to hate white people, to look for white privilege. Does Henry fucking Novak look like he had white privilege when he's laying on that floor? Yeah, there's only one privilege, and that was for the brown person. And that is continuous in every single aspect in this institution. They're favoured in school education. Look at school education. White working class kids are failing, they're at the bottom. All the other migrant groups are excelling and doing better. They have all the support, all the money, all the funding. We're not neglected and forgotten. We're abused as working class white people. And that's not what Henry was. The wrong colour, so he was handcuffed. Police didn't care. That is institutional racism.
Also angry is Lawrence Fox, who described the police as the enemy.
I was going to say, what's the main reason you're out here today? What should we do about all of this?
Because it's the most disgusting thing I've ever witnessed in the world. If this was a young black man, the whole country would be on fire. There'd be Macpherson reports, there'd be independent inquiries. Those people in there are your enemy, they're not your friend.
And I mean, the scene last night was extraordinary. It shows how much Britain has changed, because it was actually the white protesters chanting racist police off our streets.
Racist police off our streets! 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 Racist police off our streets!
The protest itself was powerful and peaceful, with speeches from both Tommy, Lawrence and UKIP leader Nick Tenkoni.
They are complicit in the murder of a young boy only because he was white. That's the only reason. Your rage and your fury is completely justified.
The arresting officers who handcuffed, demonised, patronised, vilified and a dying 18-year-old, no doubt, bleeding out, gasping for air, begging for help, must now be named, placed under arrest, and a total and complete thorough investigation begins into the motivations behind their behaviour.
This is about race. He was murdered because he was white. He was handcuffed. Do you know the murderer? He didn't get handcuffed. Even after they found out he'd stabbed him 5 times, he still didn't get fucking handcuffed.
And remember, just hours before that protest, Digwa's father and brother, who are still walking free, smirked upon entering court. So I repeat, it is no surprise that there was indignant anger. The police refused to take the knee for Henry Novak, despite taking the knee for George Floyd during those London BLM protests in 2020. Watch.
Shame, didn't it? Not all bad now when people do stuff like this, are you?
Disgusting. It's disgusting. Yeah, but see how you all stood here? Take the knee and pay your respect for Henry. Your officers assisted in that man's death. I've drove 4.5 hours to get here. Half the people have, mate. We're fucking tired of you, him, and every police officer in the force. Your left ideology is woke and it is ruining the country. We're sick of it. It's disgusting.
All you do is just stand
and
there.
you just stand there.
Say nothing.
You're horrible, you're vile. You don't care.
Why don't you say something?
Look at all of these people who have come to show their respect for Henry.
To the independent officer of police conduct, that is all I'm going to say.
That don't mean shit.
That don't mean nothing to us. He'll get off with it in 2-3 weeks. Sweep it under the carpet like Labour government always do. Keir Starmer should have been gone by now. We don't care. He brushes it all off. Muppets, mate.
What are you going to do? Put me in cuffs and kill me, yeah? Is that what you're going to do, yeah?
They won't do, mate. They won't do, mate.
You think you're bad now? Put the badge on and that, don't you? You're scumbag, mate. Scumbag. That's what you lot are. Scumbag.
Tell him, lad.
The whole Hampshire police force are scumbag. There he is, lad. Hey.
But here's what you're not going to hear in the mainstream media. There are claims that it was actually the police that sparked last night's violence. It started during those speeches where there was pushing and shoving, and the protesters quite clearly blaming overzealous policing. Basil the Great argued this is only going to get worse if cooler heads don't prevail. The police are already on thin ice with the public. Look at how it started.
Shocking behaviour here. Look at all these people, look.
And that overzealous policing continued, and this is where the trouble began, as protesters peacefully marched towards the Digwa family home where Henry was murdered. So do you see that? Can I be very clear? That is not a gang of thugs. That was a group of mourners, of patriots who wanted to pay tribute. But as Jack Hadfield reported from the scene, as the crowd moved down on Belmont Road in Southampton near the house in Southampton where Henry Novak died, riot police ran to bolster the initial police line. Now, Lucy Connolly argued this was a big mistake, posting on X, "If I were the police in Southampton, the last thing I'd be doing right now is trotting out the riot police and giving it the big I am. Your officers behaved like animals. There is no getting away from that, no excuse. Show some respect and integrity. What little respect anyone had for the police is gone. It's time for the police and the rest of the public servants to earn the public's respect back." And indeed, for a moment, things were calm as protesters took the knee. Watch.
It's all nothing. Nothing. Soldiers have to be in fucking hospital bedbound, yeah? Nothing. Stalked.
There were also chants of "I can't breathe."
Can't breathe! I 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 can't breathe!
Henry's last words, of course. But tensions then escalated. Look. And to chants of "I can't breathe," the police then edged backwards.
They're pushing him back again! The fences are going, the fences are going! Alright, you're shot, Mark. Are you okay? Just watch your head, yeah? There's a lot of shit flying, yeah? Bricks included in that. Fence panel's gone. You ain't bought a fence panel in a while. That's what I know from you, just saying that's 50 quid.
Young Bob, who was one of the independent reporters on the scene, reported the police have pushed protesters back using riot shields in a completely unprovoked and aggressive manner. In doing so, escalating tension and provoking further disorder. Watch his video.
Come away! Come away! Get away! Fucking into it! This is what I mean. When it comes to taking exploitation of us vulnerable in society, you have to expect this sort of reaction. Civil unrest is the inevitability of mass migration. As soon as an area is demographically replaced, this is what happens, because people no longer recognise the Britain that they previously knew from their generation, from their family, from their ancestors.
Right, love, you okay? You right, you okay? You okay? You sure? Shake on it. Right, good. 1 second.
Well, if you don't want to get hit, move there, that's where the cameras are. Yeah, I know.
And by the way, I want to give huge credit to the independent reporters on the scene, especially UK sploosh Young Bob and AY Audits, who I was really relying on because you know you can't trust the mainstream media in these situations. The police were then chased down the road with bins.
They're running him out. They're chasing him with bins. They've got him, they're running him out. Come on, you guys. Fuck off. Come on, you guys. All right, police are getting moved back.
Tommy Robinson posted some protesters were injured and covered in blood, with footage of police kicking one man on the ground. Yet another bleeding protester stared down the cops. Vox Populi was on the scene independently reporting too, and they revealed that after hours of standing against each other, police have just charged at the remaining protesters. They are attempting to disperse the crowd. Here's their footage. But before that had even happened, the government's mouthpiece, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, had set the party line, posting, "The scenes this evening in Portswood are completely unacceptable. The Novak family made a powerful call to us all yesterday to not let Henry's death be used to create further division, hatred or tension. There can be no justification for hijacking this tragedy to stir up violence and disorder. Those responsible can expect to face the full force of the law. I thank the police who have tonight shown great bravery and calm in the face of disgraceful violence directed at them." Now let's compare that with what she said during the Black Lives Matter violent protests in 2020. Many constituents have been in touch with me regarding protests across the United States after the murder of George Floyd. I share their anger at this unspeakable outrage. You can see the difference. And let me tell you, the MSM just want this story to go away. They are livid that they've had to put Henry Novak on their front pages and at the top of their bulletins after ignoring this story for weeks. And now they've decided they can turn it into a predictable beat-up about Nigel Farage stoking violence. That's all because he suggested in his emergency broadcast yesterday that we should respond to the incident with pure, cold rage. But first, before we get back to the show...
Henry's family have responded to this in just the most extraordinarily dignified way. But I suggest the rest of us respond to this with pure, cold rage.
Now, who do you associate more with? Farage or Humza Useless? Using this incident for his own Islamist brand of leftist lies.
There are some sick individuals who are using Henry's murder to not only further their own hateful ideology, but also to divide society. That's despite the words of Henry's father, Mark Novak, who said, and I quote, "We do not want his death to be used to create further division, hatred, or tension." So shame on you, Nigel Farage, for ignoring and dishonouring the Novak family.
And that was the line, the despicable line, that Slippery Starmer took at PMQs today. Now, when Reform UK leader Farage got up, just listen to the scumbag MPs shouting him down as he tried to raise his point about the two-tier policing we are all terrified about.
Following the horrendous circumstances of Henry Novak's death, can I urge the Prime Minister to consider this? It is now clear to growing millions in this country that we're living under two-tier policing. The instructions that are given to police officers from police bosses are clear and written down in ink. It says you must treat different ethnic groups in different ways. That, apart from the upset and the anger at the circumstances of his death, the anger that you saw spilling out in Southampton last night, and which is in danger,
Condemn the violence.
which is in danger of getting considerably worse, because if the public lose trust,
Condemn it.
if the public lose trust in being treated fairly by the police, can he take some action, end this divisive practice of two-tier policing, and make sure that all British citizens are treated the same?
Mr. Speaker, I don't believe there's two-tier policing in this country. I'm really shocked that he pretends to have respect for Henry's family and then acts in this way. They are a grieving family.
Sick. He's the one doing it. He is the one politicising the family, Starmer. And I want to make a promise to you. I promise you that Starmer is more angry about Farage's pure cold rage video than he is about the body cam footage of Henry Novak.
His response has been to appeal for rage. Rage. That's his response to a father who's lost his son and ask for that not to happen. Exploiting this tragedy to create grievance and division would be wrong in any circumstances, but to do it when the family are expressly saying, please don't, is unforgivable. It shows exactly who he is.
Earlier, Peter Lloyd had released footage of Starmer seeming to laugh and shake his head when journalists asked if he had a message for Henry Novak's family. Watch this.
Will you resign, Prime Minister? Do you have a message for Henry's family, Prime Minister? Are you ashamed, Prime Minister?
But Slippery Starmer has been taking his lead from the corrupted MSM, like Channel 4 News. Now, you'll know Reform UK love putting up Zia Yusuf on left-wing broadcasts because the identity politics-obsessed MSM struggle to deal with the fact a non-white Muslim is making the argument they hate so much.
No one is going to guilt trip us into not making these arguments. I'm afraid we now do live in a country where anti-white racism is structurally embedded in many of our great institutions, including the police.
But in this particular case, which is so tragic and may at the end of the day be so unique, is it not wrong to use it as an example of a broader trend? This is precisely what the father of the victim has warned against.
There are many, many examples of two-tier policing and justice in this country. And with regard to this case, we can talk about the fact that in this country,
two-tier policing that leads to murder,
if you're of a certain religion, with respect, please let me finish
dying.
the point. If you are of a certain religion, you get to carry a deadly weapon around in public.
However, that was just the entree, the starter. Because Yusuf, not a man I like or support, by the way, after he reported Rupert Lowe to the police, causing the split on the right, but whom I will always call out when he does something good, completely owned and completely humiliated Kathy Newman of Sly News, who should now resign from the MSM in disgrace. Watch this masterclass.
Are you happy with him using that phrase?
Kathy, what Nigel Farage said today was that white lives matter as much as black lives. Do you disagree with that statement?
You seem to be conducting an interview with me, but I'm trying to ask you the question.
I'm asking you whether you disagree with the statement
because
that
you're
white
the
lives...
you're the
firstly,
politician.
I'm correcting. With respect, Kathy, I'm correcting you on this because to leave out the second half of the sentence, I think is deliberately misrepresentative and misleading. So Nigel said that white lives matter as much as black lives. And my question to you is, do you disagree with that statement?
And my question to you is about Nigel Farage's claims of anti-white prejudice. I mean, there is overwhelming evidence, isn't there, of police racism over the decades against black minority ethnic people. You've got to go back to the Scarman report, the McPherson report, the Casey review. There are decades of racism by the police against black minority ethnic people. Do you accept that that is a fact?
I'm kind of stunned that you couldn't bring yourself to say that you agree with the statement that white lives matter as much as black lives. I can't understand why you can't just confirm you agree with that statement.
Zia, you're the senior member of a party. You're a politician. My job is to hold you to account.
Well, she failed to do that. Instead, it was Yusuf who brought the receipts about Kathy Newman's total hypocrisy, given her public pronouncements over BLM and George Floyd. Dan Wooten, Outspoken.
On a premise that it is wholly inappropriate to watch that body cam footage and be furious. It is wholly inappropriate to conclude from watching that body cam footage that there should be some political ramifications for this. When in 2021, Kathy, you wrote op-ed after op-ed, article after article in newspapers like The Independent about George Floyd. In fact, and let me quote you your own words. You said that you expressed delight that the BLM hashtag transported, and this is a direct quote from you, Kathy, transported the rage of George Floyd's death across the four corners of the globe.
Zia,
so
I've said
the point
to
that we
you,
are making
Zia,
is that
I've said to you,
a totally
I understand
different
people
reaction,
are angry,
a totally different reaction, Kathy, not just from you. I'm only putting that to you because I'm speaking to you now, but I'm afraid this has been endemic across most of the media landscape in this country and the institutions in this country. And the reality is this: because Henry was a white man, because Henry was a white man, because Henry was a white man,
you seem to be interviewing
simply unwilling
me,
to accept that this sort of thing exists.
Zia, I can see you're on broadcast mode, but if you'd listened to my monologue at the start of this show, I know you were on a rival show, so that was impossible for you. But I reflected on the public anger and the anger that people feel. But I also reflected on the concerns that MPs have, including the constituency MP of Henry Novak, who is worried about that anger being stoked by politicians for their own ends, for political ends. I'm asking you about that. I'm reflecting on that.
There's only one thing for you to do, Kathy Newman. Resign. The British Bashing Corporation was even more disgusting, deciding to use their flagship newsnight not to debate the anti-white murder of Henry Novak, but rather slam Nigel Farage for his reaction to it.
We've seen this before. Yeah. After a terrible, tragic case, people take to the streets. Is this a sign of public anger that they don't feel that the system, the government, has got a grip on this issue?
So I think this was an incitement by Nigel Farage, and that's exactly what we had. And what makes me even sadder is the barrage of hate that's gone out by the online warriors towards the family. The family wanted calm. Their ask was that we focused on knife crime and that we worked to stop knife crime. They wanted us to focus on the murder of their son. And they're very clear, they were fearful that this would be the reaction. And as a consequence of that, the family are now experiencing hate online. And that's not where we should be as a country.
Layla, I'll let you respond to that claim of incitement.
I think that video is what's incited this anger. It's incited anger in all of us. And naming that anger, as Nigel did in the video, is not what's causing division.
Of course! Layla Cunningham is completely right. But she was surrounded by suicidal leftists like ex-Met Police Superintendent Leroy Logan, who was hysterical. Not about Novak, but Farage.
We bring in Leroy on the protests and what we were seeing in Southampton.
Well, if anyone is telling me that when you run off your mouth to say rage and White Lives Matter and this two-tier policing, which is not evidence-based at all, that doesn't impact on people assembling outside a police station and then going on to other addresses. You're fooling yourself. This is clearly cause and effect. When you have, let me finish, I'll let you talk. When politicians don't realise the impact of their words, and just like he was saying, the family said, please do not use my son in that way. And you still go and do it. And there's no apology from your side. I think it's ludicrous.
Apology for what Nigel pointed...
for the impact of what has been said. It is clear that people have been incited by what Nigel Farage and other people in Reform have said.
It's just bullshit. There's only one person who's had to apologise after that broadcast. It's the Goblin Newsnight host, Matt Chorley, who deliberately misquoted Nigel Farage multiple times during the show, suggesting he used the term white cold rage. So you know what this was about? It was about trying to racialise what Farage had said. Watch him do it.
Nigel Farage has said in response to this, we should respond to this with white, cold rage. Do you agree with him?
No, I think he's completely wrong. This is not the way to go. What we don't need is rage, because what rage will do is cause someone else's child to get hurt. We need resilience, we need courage. I don't think that his intervention was helpful. I think that we should try and depoliticize this and look at what's going wrong in our society, how we can make it better, rather than trying to whip up anger. Rage should not be coming into it.
And what is the risk if more people follow Nigel Farage's appeal for white, cold rage?
So I think that Nigel Farage is just wading into this without ever doing any work. I've been working on this for years now. I have put out, I wrote to every public institution as a minister that don't allow activists to pressure you. Here's what you need to do. He doesn't want to do that sort of thing. And instead, he's whipping people up. And I think that we will end up seeing more division.
Well, after Nigel Farage's lawyers demanded an apology, the BBC Goblin has posted on his X account, not actually on the show, I owe Nigel Farage an apology. During last night's Newsnight, we covered the murder of Henry Novak and the political reaction to the case, including discussing Nigel Farage's comments about pure cold rage. However, I referred to white cold rage. This was a mistake on my part, a misremembering of the quote. It didn't change the content of the interview, but I should have got the quote right. I apologise to Nigel Farage for this. Let me tell you, it wasn't a mistake. It was a disgusting and shameful attempt by the Newsnight Goblin to racialise Nigel Farage's comments. And this happens all over the mainstream media. I mean, look at the panic, absolute panic in the Jeremy Vine studio today when a caller challenged the MSM BLM narrative around George Floyd.
Another thing that I'd like to just address, the lady on your panel mentioned George Floyd. It's nothing like that because Floyd overdosed on drugs. He was not murdered.
Oh, Charlotte,
that is a miscarriage of justice.
Charlotte, don't.
Sorry, Charlotte, you've lost the room at this point. I'm sorry. This is like there was an entire trial in
he was
America.
murdered by a police officer,
yeah,
Charlotte.
exactly.
That's the key thing. All right. Whether there's any read across from Floyd to the Henry case, we'll see what you think.
Dan Wooten, Outspoken.